Namaste and welcome, yogis. I'm Avani of the Caribe Yoga Academy, and we have Alex, a CYA graduate, here to demonstrate Surya Namaskar A. So we're going to do a breakdown today of Sun Salutation A, specifically for yoga teachers that want to work on things like alignment and cueing. However, of course, if you're working through this sequence in your home practice as well, you may find it useful. So let's go through and break down pose by pose, and then we'll put it all together. So first pose of the practice, Samastitihi. This is the great spot to kind of set your intention and root down before you move into standing sequences. We both warmed up and done our yoga practice for the morning, so I recommend that before doing any standing postures. So the pose is, draw hands together at your heart. And Alex is going to look for a little lift of her sternum to bring her sternum up toward her thumbs so that there's a little bit of an engagement. Otherwise, we can be in sort of a soft standing posture, right? So her shoulders are drawn back so that her chest can lift up toward her thumbs. And there can be an active press of your hands into one another as well. And then she's going to find some length, lifting up from the crown of her head, and then activate as if she's pressing her thighs out toward a door frame so that everything becomes very strong and active. This is a great spot to set your intention or to sink down and resettle at heart center before practice. So Samastitihi, two hands drawn together at your heart, balance pose. And then she can let her palms come down alongside her body. Tadasana, the pose of the mountain, this is our anatomically neutral posture. The palms roll open. I'll go over the entire sequence at the end with active voice for cueing practice. So alignment is palms open toward the top edge of the mat. She's going to work to slide her ribs right back so they're above her pelvis. So it's a lineup of the hollow of the ribs above the hollow of the pelvic bowl. And then again, a little bit of a lift with the tip of her nose so that her neck spine can be really long. And the crown of her head lifts upward toward the sky. Tadasana, or mountain pose. With her inhale, she's going to reach her arms way up high overhead for Uttita Tadasana or Urdhva Astasana. You'll hear this pose called both. One is extended mountain pose or extended or upward facing hands together pose. So either one is correct. Urdhva Astasana, Uttita Tadasana. Gaze can lift upward toward the fingertips, and the arms can be shoulders width distance apart or with the palms pressing together. Just a difference in Hatha Yoga lineage, so Ashtanga would probably have the palms together. Other forms of Vinyasa might have the arms further apart. So choose which one feels best for your body. And then on the exhale, riding the wave of that breath, take your arms out wide and come all the way forward. This is where you might cue your students to grab for blocks, or if it's possible for them in their practice to come all the way down to the earth. Uttanasana, a forward fold. Here, she'll activate her quadriceps. That will help lengthen the hamstrings. And then if your students are working with the bandhas in their practice, this is also a great spot to cue the mula bandha, a lift up of the pelvic floor, as well as a draw back of the abdomen and up under the ribs for Uddiyana Bandha. So there's really a lot of strength here and a deeper pull forward into the fold. Uttanasana. Then a slide halfway up. This can be to fingertips onto blocks or hands onto the shins. Halfway lift, and it's still going to be that same engagement. So lower belly draws back toward lumbar spine, and there's a lift in the pelvic floor. Gaze can be right down toward the earth, so you can see that Alex's neck spine is still really nice and long. If she lifts her gaze up, because I know you're going to get a good view of it from that angle, if she lifts her gaze up, you can see this is going to give some compression for the neck spine. So let's keep the spine nice and long. And then, with the exhale, she's going to land her hands down to the earth and step back 1 foot at a time toward plank pose, Palakasana. It's a P with an H, Palakasana. Align her shoulders, elbows, and wrists, and make sure the fingers are spread out wide so each of the knuckles can ground. Here, same engagement. There's a little bit of a press, like the legs are pressing out into door frames, a drop back of the lumbar spine, and a lift of the pelvic floor. Then she'll slide forward just slightly, and then bend into the elbows, just back to the ribs. Chaturanga Dandasana, Chaturanga pose. This is the big transition, folks. So she's bending just to the ribs, and then to transition to the back bend, all she's going to do is lengthen her arms, and lift her heart. Okay, so same thing, gaze can be straight ahead so that the neck spine is really nice and long. Remember that. Gaze lifting all the way up and back is going to create some compression in the back, at the back of the neck. So nice and long with a lift of the crown of her head upward. And then the activation here is in the back side of the body. Low back, glutes, hamstrings, all really, really strong so that the fronts of the thighs and the psoas and the abdomen can be really nice and long. And then she'll start to shoot her hips high and back, flip her toes, and lift all the way back to everyone's favorite Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog. I forgot the previous pose or back bend was Urdhva Mukha Svanasana, or upward facing dog. So here there's, again, a spread of the fingers really nice and wide, so each knuckle is nice and rooted. Feet are more or less hip width distance apart. Now, a little bit of a myth in the practice of yoga, the heels do not have to be touching the ground in this pose. In fact, for some yogis, if the heels are completely flat down onto the earth, they may benefit more deeply by taking a little bit of a step back, and then that will increase the sensation. Also, having a soft bend in the knees is appropriate here for anyone working with a little bit of a limitation for the hamstrings. So, Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog. Look for crunchiness in the shoulders and the upper back here. So you can create a little bit of space between the shoulders by kind of rolling those upper arm bones away from the ears. And then lift your gaze forward. And you all know that the options for transitions, you can take a couple steps, one lunge or a hop forward, come all the way to the top edge of the mat, and it's the same sequence in reverse coming back up. So you land first to halfway, either to fingertips or hands to shins. That's your Ardha, half, Uttanasana, forward fold. With the exhale, it's a deepened fold, Uttanasana. Remember, active quads will lengthen your hamstrings. And then with the belly engaged and the pelvic floor lifted, those two lower bandhas, sweep the arms, the wingspan out wide, all the way right back up, Utthita Tadasana, an extended Tadasana, extended mountain pose. Breathe the hands together through the heart, Samastitihi, and right back to Tadasana. So that was our really slow-mo breakdown of each of the postures and the principal elements that you want to look for. So let's go through one time with active voice cueing. Remember, we're going to be really mindful about body possession. Make sure that we are giving the student ownership of their own body, and active direct cueing so that it is clear and concise. All right, you ready? Let's go. So go ahead and start with your hands together at heart center, Samastitihi. Lift your sternum up towards your thumbs and take a breath here. And then with your next exhale, take your arms down alongside your body, Tadasana. Open your palms toward the front edge. Lengthen the crown of your head upward. And inhale, sweep your arms wide and all the way up. If it feels comfortable for your neck, you can lift your gaze up, Utthita Tadasana. And then using your exhale, follow that wave, hinge at your hips, come all the way forward to touch the earth or blocks, Uttanasana, forward fold. Inhale to lift up halfway to fingertips or shins, lift up your pelvic floor. And then exhale, this is all on one out moving breath. Plant your palms, step back through plank, Halakasana, bend your elbows, Chaturanga Dandasana. And then inhale to lift your sternum, draw your shoulders back, keep your gaze forward for a nice long neck spine, Urdhva Mukha Svanasana. Exhale, roll over your toes, lift your hips high and back, Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog. Feet can be hips width distance apart, you can be soft in your knees. You can take a step a little further back or closer to your hands, depending on what you need for an edge in your hamstrings. And let's do one more breath here. And Inhale to lift your gaze forward towards your fingertips, map out your journey there. Step, walk, or hop your way up, and as you arrive, lift halfway to fingertips or blocks. Exhale to fold a little deeper. Remember, quads are active. Draw the tummy back to your lumbar spine. Keep that drawn in. Reach your wingspan out wide. Come all the way back to standing. Bring your gaze up to your fingertips, perhaps. Bring your hands together to heart center, Samastiti. And rest back into the pose of the mountain, Tadasana. All right. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, yogis. That is Surya Namaskar A. Stick around or check out the other tutorials for our other fundamental standing sequences. Namaste. Jai Bhagwan.